ASAFA. ASAFA, the Armed Forces Charity, the Soldiers, Sailors, Airmen and Families Association, is a UK charity that provides lifelong support to serving men and women and veterans from the British Armed Forces and their families or dependents. Anyone who is currently serving or has ever served in the Royal Navy, British Army or Royal Air Force and their families, both regulars and reserves, is eligible for their help. ASAFA's professional staff and network of 7,000 volunteers assist more than 90,000 people every year, from World War II veterans to the families of young servicemen and women wounded or killed in Afghanistan. Founded in 1885, ASAFA is the UK's oldest national tri-service armed forces charity. Clients. ASAFA offers help and support to all serving and former members of all ranks of the armed forces: Royal Navy, Royal Marines, Army, and Royal Air Force, Volunteer Reserve Forces, including Royal Navy Reserves, Royal Marine Reserves, Army Reserves, and Royal Air Force Reserves. Nursing services. The following people are also eligible for ASAFA's support: wives and former wives, husbands and former husbands, widows and widowers, civil partners and former civil partners, partners who are or were in an established relationship with a beneficiary, children who are dependent on a beneficiary, those who provide or provided care for a beneficiary. Welfare advice and support. ASAFA offer welfare advice and support for serving personnel, veterans and their families through a worldwide network of volunteers. Branches in local communities provide help for veterans and their families, and committees on military bases help serving families. For currently serving personnel and their families. Support in service communities. ASAFA has a network of volunteers on Army, RAF, and naval bases in the UK and around the world who give local support. Housing for wounded, injured, and sick serving personnel and their families. ASAFA Norton Homes in Selly Oak, Birmingham, and Headley Court, Surrey provide home-from-home accommodation for families visiting wounded, injured, or sick service or ex-service personnel and outpatients. ASAFA also provides day-to-day management of Fisher House UK at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Birmingham, Cape. Mentoring for injured, wounded, or sick service leavers. ASAFA's mentoring scheme was set up in 2011 and supports those transitioning out of the Army or RAF due to medical discharge. ASAFA's volunteer mentors provide support to wounded, injured, and sick service leavers through a long-term one-to-one relationship that underpins the transition from the military. ASAFA mentoring is nationally accredited by the Mentoring and Befriending Foundation. Adoption for military families. ASAFA is a registered adoption agency dedicated to helping military families through the adoption process. Additional needs and disabilities support. ASAFA provides specialized support to military families with additional needs, including their force's Additional Needs and Disability Forum Fund. Short breaks for children and young people from forces families. ASAFA coordinates holidays and events that focus on offering new experiences and activities for children and young people from service families. Stepping Stone Homes for women and their children with a service connection. Stepping Stone Homes provide short-term supported accommodation, help, and advice during difficult times. Female serving or ex-service personnel, or the female spouses and partners of serving or ex-service personnel, along with their dependent children, are all eligible to stay there. Professional health care. ASAFA's professional health care staff provide patient-focused care to military families worldwide. Personal support and social work for the RAF. Working alongside the RAF, but outside the chain of command, ASAFA staff provide support for RAF personnel and their families, both regulars and reserves. Independent service custody visiting. SSAFA provides independent oversight of Army service custody facilities. Support available to veterans and their families. Housing advice. SSAFA offer practical housing advice and support to armed forces veterans and their dependents, including guidance around housing benefits and accessing social housing. Debt advice. SSAFA can help veterans to get advice on dealing with debt when they have fallen behind on their bills or repayments to credit cards and are struggling to get by or at risk of losing their home. Mobility assistance. SSAFA volunteers seek financial assistance for veterans to help maintain mobility and independence at home. Trained volunteers can help veterans get mobility equipment, such as electronically powered vehicles or mobility scooters, stair lifts, riser and recliner chairs. Providing household goods. SSAFA can provide veterans with essential household items, including white and brown goods. Support for homeless veterans. SSAFA have a range of specialist services to support veterans who are homeless or facing homelessness. Support for offenders and ex-offenders. SSAFA can provide support for families of veterans whilst they are in custody, veterans and their families on release, veterans whilst they are in custody. Residential housing. St. Vincent's Care Home at Ryde provides residential care for older ex-service personnel and their spouses. The Royal Homes in Wimbledon provide accommodation where widows and daughters of those who used to serve can live independently. Glasgow's Helping Heroes. Glasgow's Helping Heroes is a service provided by SSAFA in partnership with Glasgow City Council for current and former members of the armed forces and their dependents or carers who live, work, or wish to relocate there. Its dedicated team works with national and local government and third sector providers to resolve clients' employment, housing, health, financial and or social isolation issues. Forces Line Helpline. SSAFA also offers Forces Line, is a free and confidential telephone helpline, live chat, and email service that provides support for both current and ex-servicemen and women from the armed forces and for their families. Locations. SSAFA provides support where it is needed in the UK and worldwide. The volunteer network reaches into every county of the UK and 13 countries around the world. Volunteers in more than 90 branches provide advice and support to veterans and their families living in local communities. Service committees work on Army garrisons, RAF stations, and naval establishments with over 60 committees across the UK and wherever the UK Armed Forces are based worldwide. SSAFA Healthcare and Social Work Services support the Armed Forces community in 13 countries. Structure and governance. History. James Gildea founded the Soldiers and Sailors Families Association in 1885. In 1919, after the establishment of the Royal Air Force in 1918, the organization expanded support to become the Soldiers, Sailors, Airmen and Families Association SSAFA. In 1997, SSAFA Forces Help was established when two charities, the Forces Help Society and SSAFA, merged. On 10 April 2013, the charity's name changed to SSAFA as part of a rebranding aimed at improving awareness of the organization's work amongst members of the armed forces community. Cultural references. In Foyle's War Series 6, Episode 3 All Clear, Sam volunteers with SSAFA at Foyle's suggestion.